Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to EduTALK. EduTALK is a weekly virtual talk show created out of the need for a global learning community. And we focus on topics in education, surrounded by wonderful people who contribute these content in the area of education. And we love it because we are enlightened by this topic. On the program today, or this evening, we have with us Mr. Keith Holmes and give you a little bit of a story behind his background here. He has over 30 years um, in the satellite communication industry, and he's
Mhm.
also the author of a book. So we're going to take the book. We're going to discuss the book in detail in a little bit. So one of the things that he focuses on, he's the founder and CEO at Global Black Inventor Research Project, Inc. And we're going to talk about that some more. He's also in this regard, researching Black inventors, inventions, and patents by Black inventors. Also, he is a researcher and an author, and he has a wealth of information that we're gonna dig into. It's your first time on EduTalk. Yeah, probably won't be your last. Mr. Holmes, welcome to EduTalk. Um, can you tell us a little bit more? Yes, tell us a little bit more about you and your background, professionally, and the work and that you have contributed to.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me onto the show.
Yeah.
As you know, when we talk about Black inventors, the focus is usually on African Americans, and that couldn't be a part of the whole truth in terms of what encompasses inventors, especially inventors of color. So in 1988, I attended an event in Brooklyn, New York called the African Street Festival. And it's a festival that goes on every year, and hundreds of thousands of people come through. And I ran across a book by Burt McKinley called Black Inventors of America. I was enthralled by the book. I was going to become a vendor, street vendor, and start selling the book out in the
Mm,
streets. But I spoke to my mentor, my wife, my friends, and they said, well, why don't you write a book? So my journey started in 1988. I
mm,
started researching at the Schomburg Library, as well as the Moore Lawrence Spingarn Library. I realized that I had to open up my mind and my awareness to the fact that Black inventors are not just here in the United States. What about Canada, the
yeah.
Caribbean, Africa, UK, Europe, Australia, any place where Black people have lived at or were transported to through enslavement? We were the inventors, the innovators in those nations. And just to give you a caveat of how important Black inventors are here in the United States, currently there are over 40 men and women who've been inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. That's like being inducted into the National Basketball Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame, soccer, if they have one, the Hall of Fame. These men and women are responsible for over 1,300. Now, this is a small segment
Yeah.
of people involved in the inventive process. They're responsible for over 1,300 inventions. And if we count the inventions by Dr. George, the innovations by Dr. George Washington Carver,
Yeah.
that grows to 2,300. Now, just on the stats, if we take Marion Croak, who was recently inducted in uh, 2022, 2023,
Mhm.
she alone has over 250 patents.
Mhm.
Lonnie G. Johnson, let me get back. Croak is responsible for voice over IP, the ability for us to do what we are doing right now. We've got brother from London, we got you in Manhattan, and of
Yeah.
course, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. So we're able to do this communications through voice over IP. And Dr. Marion Croak is responsible, one of the chief proponents of that invention. And that invention alone is worth hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's just a small example. Lonnie G. Johnson developed the Super Soaker water gun. That invention generates $250 million a year. When we
Yeah.
take a look at a Black man by the name of Matzingler, from Suriname, who developed a shoe lasting machine as well as 4 other devices. That industry is billions of dollars every year. So my focus became, I can't just focus on African Americans. I got to look at what's going on around the world wherever we are located in. And I'm proud to say my book is a part of the National Library of Jamaica, as
Yeah.
well as the British Library in London and England, as well as a number of other libraries throughout the Caribbean, as well as in the UK.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a great question.
Oh, hold on. Let
The
me,
onus of that research was,
yeah,
let's find these inventors and
yeah,
make sure we document them so our children will know that we're not just sports icon
yeah.
or entertainment icons. We're also inventor
Mm.
icons.
So we're coming back to you because you're our main focus. Dr. Barker is here from England, as you said, London, tuning in here, my co-host. Dr. Barker, welcome. We know you're coming, you at one way or the other, you will be here to hear this section
Welcome.
here.
Yes, it's like Christmas, it's coming. So this is
Yeah,
me. I finally arrived.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
no, to be honest, good evening. Is it Keith? Yeah, good evening, Keith. Yeah,
Good
really,
evening.
I dropped into the conversation just at the point where you're dropping some deep knowledge. So, when I'm in the presence of people sharing wisdom, I'm quiet and I listen, So, yeah, clearly, Dr. Dice got you off to a great start, and the things that you're sharing certainly resonate well with me. So, Dr. Dice, I know you started the conversation, so I'll listen in a little bit and then maybe jump in from time to
Yeah, man,
time.
you can jump in. I want the viewers to hear this because this man here, Mr. Keith Holmes, he has been around the articles and so on that he has been a part of. Some publications in these articles, such as Black Heritage Today UK, blacknews.com, caribbeanlife.com, American Herald Express.com, blackstarnews.com. I'm
Wow.
sure if Marcus Garvey was here now, he would be like flamingly happy about your contribution to Black people, and also not just Black people, but to understand people on a whole and their worth to the rest of us humankind. Um, Awardee for the Honorary Male Champion Award from 2022 and the Caribbean 2022, yes, award presented by the Global Women Inventors and Inventors Network, and that's in
Yeah.
the
Out of the
UK.
UK. Out of the
Yes.
UK.
So is Keith, are you based in the UK?
No, I'm based in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay,
But
Brooklyn, New York. I could
Wynn,
sense the American accent. So here's my question though, because
yes,
I
sir.
hear a last part of you and you're talking about, I think, what you spoke about is of interest to me because what I heard when I came in was your reference to the fact that we are not only sports icons,
Yes.
but you wanted to make the point that we are also STEM icons. You said
Yes, we
inventors,
are.
but I'm going to say STEM icons because when
Yes,
I
that's
think
fine.
of it, like Catherine Johnson from Hidden Figures and those people, I'm beginning to see that maybe there's an issue there. But you have clearly made a decision to ensure that you're not waiting for someone to do this on behalf of people. And you said you're going beyond the African American. Why is this important to you?
Well, when we look at the population explosion in Africa, the Caribbean, Central, South America, the UK, Canada, of Black men and women, STEM is going to be one of the most important fields that young people can get involved in. And I'm sure many of us, including you guys, thought about another career, maybe in entertainment, maybe in sports. But none of us can be a Pele. None of us are going to be a LeBron James. Oh, I mean, all of us can't be a Michael Jordan or Usain Bolt. There's fields of study that requires, of course, the same amount of thousands of hours of education and realignment with what science is really all about. And that opportunity is there for all of us, no matter what countries we're located in. So my fixation now is to understand that science is not going to go away, regardless of people saying that science can be fake sometimes. No, what we're doing right now is science. men and women developed this technology for us to be able to communicate with each other. And we as a people have to grasp the fact that tradition and science, they all go together. Let's not be afraid of it. When you were playing soccer or you're playing basketball, you're doing math. When you're playing American baseball or you're running track, you are doing math. Now, most people don't look at it that way, but yes, you're tuning your body, getting yourself ready to participate in this sport. Same thing with music. All of these require math. And I think if we change our approach and made science more fun, more looking like what we saw in Black Panther when we saw men and women of color being involved in the sciences. And that movie becoming one of the most watched movie. I mean, I watched it like 6 or 7 times. My adult children said, well, Teffa, Dad, wasn't that great. I said, well, why'd you watch it 7 or 8 times? And I've gone to audiences where people are sitting there watching a film and they don't look like us. Why? Because we're enthralled. We are filled with the idea that science does matter and you have to make it fun. I mean, but main thing is we got to get our children involved in this because this is what makes the world go around. There are thousands of inventions coming out each and every day from all parts of the world. And many of our children are not seeing the men and women who look like us, who are those scientists, who are those innovators and inventors. So we have to change that narrative so they can begin to realize science is something to be grasped, not thrown away. That yes, you could become athletically inclined, you can become musically inclined, but also grasp the sciences and STEM.
We realize that you have started since 2007 with the project.
Yes, that's when I created my company, but I started the research in 1988.
Yeah, 1988, right. Who are the people involved or companies that you partner with to do all this research? Like not all, because I know it's many, but some of the noteworthy ones.
Well, you know, it's interesting. As a trailblazer, as you know, sometimes somebody has to go forward with the torch and kind of light the way. But I was able to partner with a number of colleges and universities as far as making sure they had the book inside of their institutions. So Black Inventors Hall of Fame, which is a company that I'm currently working with right now on their advisory board, they're going to be opening up a museum in 2026 here in the United States. And we're going to focus on inventors, not only here from the United States, but we're going to focus from the Black inventors from around the world. So that's one organization that I partnered with. I also partnered with, that's a good question. I am a vendor for the New York City Board of Education. I've partnered with the state of New Jersey as far as a vendor for the state of New Jersey. I've also partnered with Florida, the state of Florida, which, as you know, right now is on the throes of not including Black inventors as a part of their curriculum. But you know what? I think, DeSantis might be speaking out of 2 sides of his mouth, on one hand saying no, but the other side saying yes, because with your population being, 15 to 20%, Black, meaning from the Caribbean, from Africa, and across the United States, you have to have a curriculum that's more inclusive. New York City has now made Black history a part of the curriculum. Why? Because of the amount of children from the Caribbean, Africa, as well as the United States. You got to include that. So what we're doing is reaching out to a lot of different institutions to become either a vendor or be a person that can come in and do lectures and or workshops. And I've also partnered with Michael Williams out of the UK, who came out with a number of books, Black Scientists and Inventors. So I've partnered with him over the years. So it's a growing process. We've also partnered with a company that has developed a poster. One of the things that we're facing, we are not seeing men and women who look like us when it comes to the sciences. So if you don't, you know, like you can have a picture of LeBron James, Usain Bolt, Pele, but you got to have a picture of some of these men and women who are scientists, inventors, or innovators. So we've developed, you know, partnered with a company that has a poster that a child can go up to and see, or an adult, that, oh, here's an inventor from this location. Here's another inventor that developed this. We have to see folks who look like us. Otherwise, our children become lost in the idea that maybe we didn't participate in the development of the different products from Facebook or Google or Microsoft, which is
As
far
you
from it.
know, that's what I'm seeing too with when you mention like the video calling and so on, the lady who invented even the 3D imaging to start the invention of this. Um, Nobody knew that until a couple of years ago, just recently, that people are looking into who actually created these even the first step towards these invention. And
Yeah.
nobody looking at even the movie that Dr. Barker just mentioned with Catherine, the human
Katherine Johnson, Hidden Figures.
yeah, Hidden
Nobody knew
Figure.
that the human computers
Nobody,
were women.
yeah.
And
So
Katherine Johnson was part excellent when it comes to math. She did the mathematics for the orbital of the Mercury, Gemini, as well as the Apollo mission. And she also did the mathematic formulas for going for the mission to Mars, for
yes,
the slide rule and early computers. So,
Yeah.
you know, this just gives you an idea that
I
Hidden
think
Figures, go ahead.
one of the things that the issue we have, because sometimes we say they don't tell the story. You know, there's this notion of they don't tell the story.
Right.
But I think it's Ziggy Marley who has a song with a Black Knight story.
Mhm.
And when we talk about, you know, history, it can be called his story.
Yeah.
And the issue that we have is that we're still reliant, even when we're even in the middle of it, reliant on others,
Yeah.
our story.
Yeah.
So someone like you who have decided to tell this story or provide, you know, your story, that really shows the way in which we can contribute to the conversation. Because one of the things that I'm in education, one of the things that teachers will say when they're challenged, for example, to say, diversify your resources so that students can see that the world is not just painted in white. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
One of the issues that they face is that we are not necessarily documenting enough or documenting in a
yeah,
way that's palatable. And so
yeah,
we struggle to get that message through a crowded and a noisy space, but we are also in a position thinking they should do it. And so even you know, Dr. Dice, yourself, people like, I applaud the fact that you have taken that step forward. Because me, for example, I know that there's a book by Keith Holmes called Black Inventors. In my capacity, my role, I can go back and say, let's put that book in the library.
mhm,
But how do I know about that? You know what I mean? And how do I know that that book exists in that sense? Or even know for the fact that knowing you, I might say, can you come to my work school and talk to kids about your book and why it is important? So there is another side to it, which is as we step away and put our history of, you know, let's say slavery and independence and colonialism, we have to now step forward and say, we own this space.
Yeah. No, I
Sometimes
fully agree.
permission that people like you are showing that we all have permission to do it. We don't need someone to say, you should write a book about inventors. We have the permission to do it because it is ours from the beginning. So I'm just drawing that because I can see, I just want to, you know, I just want to acknowledge what you're doing and what you're continuing
yeah,
to do, you know, as something that is significant and is one of those bricks that we need to have in that wall so that we can stand up and say, not only are we basketballers and footballers, we're also scholars, writers, authors, historians, inventors. And that doesn't mean
yeah.
anything. So, you know,
And
even
Barker, what is so fantastic right now is that speaking of your background being you know, your mother's father from Jamaica, uh um the Prime Minister of Jamaica just announced the building or the starting of 6 STEM schools in Jamaica because they're focusing on STEM.
Yeah. Yeah.
engineering and so on. And he's telling the people of Jamaica, which is going to have a ripple effect across the Caribbean.
Sure.
He's telling the people that we need our children to focus on STEM. So everything you're saying here is to focus on STEM. That's what they're talking about. So
I just
oh
want to add one point. So
yeah,
getting back to Dr. Barker, one
yeah.
of the things that I can provide that I've done not only here in the United States, but in Canada, I did one in the UK as well as the Central and South America. I can do Zoom presentations for a classroom that's geared toward them with stats, with the inventor, what they've done, what kind of effect it had on the population, either locally or globally. I can focus on inventors from the UK that are from the Caribbean or from Africa. And one of the good things, and my last point about this is, one of the good things about finding the African inventors, I can research them by their names. Because if they kept their traditional name, it's easy to find. But folks from the Caribbean, one of the things I have to do is I have to have a very good database to do cross-section, reference analysis, as well as research to make sure those inventors indeed were, of African descent. But it's being done from my research has uncovered over 20,000 Black men and women from 80 countries, 5 continents, and the list is growing. It's not, I think, and it's not even the tip of the iceberg.
Well, that's really what we need,
Yes.
that database, because, I think Dr. Dice mentioned something about maybe the beginning inventions, because sometimes one of the things that we end up get caught in is the final invention. And the issue is that where we are strong is that insight. Sometimes we bring that in and we prepare, for example, a small idea, and that small idea leads to the bigger idea, but we don't get the credit. But we get the credit, within the patenting, because a lot of people have patents, so we dig and we find they have patents for stuff that are integral to the bigger invention. I know for one around the stoplight, and sometimes we do embellish it, but that's not somebody said the Black person invented the stoplight, but in reality, the person invented the concept of how a stoplight should work safely.
Yeah.
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 Where you have that pause between the lights. And it's a simple thing, but it made the invention work, because otherwise it was a dangerous thing, right? But the person had the insight to say, here's how. And they put forward a very early original idea that made the invention actually work. And the problem is, it comes back to the stoplight, the bigger thing. But in reality, it's the small inventions that made the difference. What we haven't done well is making sure that that story is told. And that story sometimes, we haven't done well in that. And it's important that we're documenting that. And so, I know that that's where my gap, for example, exists. I was talking to someone yesterday, and it's maybe not a connected point. It's maybe germane in that sense. But today I saw a kid with an apple, an American, what we call in Jamaica, we call it an American apple. Yeah. And the truth is, when we were learning the ABCs in Jamaica, that's the apple that they show us, but that apple never exists in Jamaica. That apple
Is there another correspondent you can use in Jamaica?
We have Aki that is so easy. That is
Aki.
Jamaica, right?
That's a good point.
But our education system, and I guarantee you, at this moment, if you and I take a flight to Jamaica and go into a early childhood education, early education space, and they are doing the ABCs, there will be A's for apple, and the apple will be an apple that looks like an apple that you'd see in America.
Yeah.
And that is fundamental to it. Maybe isn't connected, but I think it allows me to make the key point about what our education is like and the changes that are needed.
Yeah, so Mr. Holmes,
go ahead.
yes. No, I want you to reflect on if we're moving in the are we moving towards more inclusion of Black inventors and the knowledge of them in our school system based on your experience?
It's a slow, steady progress. Remember, the focus for us, and I say globally, it's still entertainment and sports. I mean, those two things, when you look at the scheme of things in the world, there's no focus on the sciences and technology in media, nor is it strong enough in our communities. So like Dr. Barker said, that's not the job of somebody else. That's our job. That's our job to tell that story, to make sure that we heighten the awareness in our communities that, look, you're not just limited to two different fields to go into. There are other things you can get involved in. And case in point is what you've done, Dr. Dice, and what you've done, Dr. Barker. But, more books, articles. I think the movie Black Panther blew the door open, for many of us who were in the sciences or working in telecommunications, working with computers, or working in STEM or mathematics. It kind of blew the door open, but it's still not enough. Yeah. Stories like Dr. Barker just mentioned, we need more stories. We need more production of movies, videos, because we're living in an age where you just can't sit and just tell a story. You got to show a story. Mm-hmm. And that's where Hidden Figures, of course, has come in. And I'm sure as time goes on, there are going to be other factors. Case in point, when you look at the movie Oppenheimer, there's nothing mentioned about our involvement in the building of the atomic bomb. Right. But Black men and women got citations from the government on their work in the building of the atomic bomb. Right. Hundreds of engineers, physicists, chemists from the HBCU schools worked on the development of the atomic bomb, but there's nothing mentioned. We're not even
if you're in a race to win an arms race, you don't really care where the ideas come from.
Of course, I understand.
The brightest and the best. The problem is, how do you credit them or don't credit them? Yeah. But you do want the best there. So
yeah,
no, I think it's I do. I think we can do more.
Yeah,
I feel that I am one of those people who want to say that we have a duty when, as we are enlightened, woke, maybe, sure. Woken, at least.
It's all right. It's all right to be woke.
Yeah, but let's say woken.
But you're always awake. You know that when you wake up.
But let us say we are woken from that sleep that we are in, right?
Exactly.
Woken meaning an awareness of what's happening as against a state, right? And we do need to do more to build the institutions that can create the right environment for other people to feel like they can be part of that. They said that the wise man plants a tree knowing that they might not sit in the shade of that tree. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the kind of thinking that I actually feel sometimes is missing from our people within our community, that we should just be planting a seed, knowing that it's going to take another 50 or 60 years for that tree to grow big enough to provide a shade. And they might not live long enough to sit in that shade. But planting the seed is important things. Yeah. And so we do need people stepping outside of the comfort zone, because that's why we're still in sports. And that's why we're still in music, because those are seen as comfort zone. In reality, they're not really comfort zone. The more that we're getting older, we're realizing that many of our artists are being scammed. They are not making any money. They're literally making other people billionaires, and they have to keep working until they're 70, 80 in order to. You see how many of them embroiled in battles over things we didn't even know was an issue. Who owned the right to the music, stuff like that. Yeah. So, and that's where the business, if they were knowledgeable about STEM and all that, they would know that the issue is not the singing, it's the production.
Yeah.
The rights. So I know I've gone on a little bit of a rant, but people like you,
okay. It's all right.
My brain spinning on topics like these, and
Yeah. So Mr. Holmes, your family, tell us about, thank you, Barker. A little, is your family involved, especially in the company that you have created?
Well, when my children were young, they were very supportive, as well as my wife, who passed away in 2020 from cancer. So she was always very supportive. She was also an administrator in her own school. Our children were basically in a private school. So they were saturated with learning about music, the importance, sports, its importance, but as well as learning how to read, write, the sciences. So now my 4 children, 3 of them are educators and 1 is a musician.
Mm.
All right. The
Yeah.
musician one, you know, like you said, you have to own your rights. That's where the money is made at, not just in the performing part of it, but the other 3 are all involved in education and their careers are taking off. Personally, myself, I was involved in telecommunication, working in the news industry for
Yeah.
almost 30 years. And I've seen a lot domestically as well as internationally. And our story, as Dr. Barker is pointing out, is not told well enough sometimes or not told at all. And that narrative has to change. But this book is just a stepping stone, just a foundation, a seed that's it's planted. And my goal in this lifetime is make sure that seed gets into many different countries, many different hands, and many institutions, because the research is something that can't be done. I don't think it can be done in one lifetime, because to find some of these men and women, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. But I'm willing, thank God, to look for that needle so that it can be pointed out to our people that science, innovation, and technology has been in our blood from the very beginning. When you look back at ancient Kemet, when you look at Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia, all these different civilizations that popped up, as well as in the Caribbean, Jamaica, Antigua, you know, St. Croix, all of them require some form of math, engineering, chemistry.
Yes.
Why not have our people involved in that instead of bringing outside help in to develop these technologies in these countries?
We hope people are listening from even across the Caribbean too, because they need motivation as much as possible. When we look back, Barker and I did a lot of shows with people looking at the history of people coming from the Caribbean, Black people, and contributing to the development of America. We look at Claude McKay, Marcus Garvey, Stokely Carmichael, and we don't see that the eagerness to uplift Black people anymore. It's just many of us, including myself, try to fit into these puzzle pieces of leadership or work that is already created for people to fit into the many different industries. And no, it seemed like we are growing dim in creativity and motivation. Can you,
Well,
as we wind up, go on.
you brought up a good point about
Yeah,
what the island nation of Jamaica is doing. They realize something. They're going to open up
yeah.
8 institutions geared towards
6,
STEM. So that's seed 6. So
6,
that shows that seed is there. It's going to flower,
yeah,
because Trinidad and Tobago also has a very good STEM program. Now Jamaica is going to have one, and all the other island nations, and one form or another, it's going to rub off and
yeah,
influence them developing that talent so it can stay within the island nation itself.
yeah,
Yeah, but the problem with this is like the problem we have is that we have big ideas about STEM, but the environment that we are trying to put STEM in still rewards memory, still rewards followership, still downplays entrepreneurship, and does not teach these kind of skills and provide the opportunities. No question. So, you know, when I went to school, there was no space. I mean, in Jamaica right now, for someone who decides to not follow, then they maybe end up, what they call them, hustlers. Yeah,
yeah.
they're hustling. But they are
Hustle.
really business people, but there's, you know, they are business people, but they are seen as doing an informal pathway. If you own a shop, is seen as an informal pathway. When in reality, this is really the true education, right? So when you're talking about inventing and so on, I don't believe that what I experienced in education provided an opportunity for me to be an inventor. Even though we did learn the science and the technical and the engineering and the mathematics, our education is as STEM subjects in it. What is missing from STEM is not the subject. And when I hear that the Prime Minister of Jamaica saying that the building, I question whether we understand whether STEM is a content or a way of thinking. And you know, whatever we're going into STEM, we have to be realizing that inventors are people who think differently.
Yeah.
They don't think in the way that we normally think. They use a kind of approach to thinking that is outside the box. Because for you to invent, you have to be willing to look at what is and say what could be. And my education was one of what is, remember it, repeat it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fit to the
And if
box.
I step outside the box, I am
Mm.
considered to be the answer is wrong because it's not in the back of the book. So perhaps one of the issues that we face is that some of our education, are we more prone to fall in line? Maybe feel like risks are more punished more seriously for us. That's maybe the piece that we need to think about. Is the ecosystem right for us
Might
to
have to
feel
change the
brave,
ecosystem. Yeah.
right? To be
Mhm.
brave, to be
Yeah.
an inventor, you
Yeah.
know, and so we can give these programs whatever name we want to call them, but if we do not have the right environment,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Nothing will grow.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Mr. Holmes. Yeah,
Yes.
Barker, you're right. You brought up a good point here. Just because we want to wind down the show, but I want because Barker brought up a good point. In your book, because the kids, young people who are budding inventors, and even older people too can invent, because we have quite a few old people who invent things even in their 70s. The background to the inventors who have gone long ago and invented some things that we are using right now. Do
Yeah.
you have in the book the struggles that they go through, the long-winded time that they spend to this, so that it develop in us a certain type of character? The young people are coming up now, that everything is not just on the whim, that we get this instant gratification, and if it doesn't work out, no, it's never gonna work out. Do you have some form of
Well, and
in the
that's a
picture
good
behind
question.
these inventors?
So in this book, it's just a seed. So what I did, I just uncovered the technologies that Black people have been involved in from ancient Egypt, of course, the different civilizations in Africa, and it's very short informational pieces in there. And then what I did is I broke the book up into different categories:
Yeah.
the United States, Caribbean, Europe, Canada, Australia. And the reason for, and just citing the inventor's name, what they developed, what year it was developed, and in some cases, I even assigned what companies the invention was assigned to. So it's just, this book is just a seed. It's just to present the idea that Black men and women from different parts of the world have been involved in inventing for over 200 years. And in that book, the first inventor I found was from Jamaica,
Jamaica.
1769, which, you know, for the most part, no one ever talks about any inventors from the Caribbean. So this book is a seed. It is something that is needed just to open up a child's or an educator or a librarian's mind to the idea that we have been involved in the invention process since the 18th century and moving forward. Now, the new books that I will be coming out with, that will tell a little bit more background information. And in the next 2 weeks, I'll be coming out with 2 articles, one about the impacts of Black vendors here in the United States, and then another article, part 2, which will focus on the inventors from the Caribbean and Africa. So right now it's just to open up that mind, because we're still stuck in the idea that only George Washington Carver, Lewis Lattimore were involved in invention, and we're still not looking at the whole picture, the global picture, that Black men and women have been involved in inventions way back, way before we were enslaved.
Yeah. Let me final thought and then we close here.
Sure.
Tell us a little, because we noticed that you're a charter member for the African American Museum, the National Museum of African American History, and
Oh,
then
yeah. So,
the
you know, it's interesting.
International African American Museum as well.
Yes. So, you know,
How
when,
does that work, basically?
well, it's interesting. So my book is a part of their library collection. What I did, and I couldn't do what Oprah Winfrey, Bill Cosby, and Michael Jordan did, which was to donate millions of dollars toward the opening and building of that museum. I was just I donated what my company could support at the time. So I'm a charter member, but I'm on the advisory board to the Black Inventors Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Which is a museum that's going to open up in New Jersey in 2026.
Good.
And my role will be chief archivist as well as researcher, because there's a lot of information that has been that our people have been misinformed about in terms of invention. My job has been to document that they actually either file for a patent, had the invention, and what the invention's impact it had on the world. And a lot of young people don't understand that you can just come up with one idea. Case in point, Norbert Rio out of Louisiana developed the evaporating pan. Now, if you look up that invention, right, that invention is what makes cane sugar, canned milk, a lot of other different chemicals. That invention alone is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. That's just one invention. And if we talk about Marion Croker again with the voice over IP, one invention and she has over 250. Dr. Patricia Bath, laser scope for people with glaucoma and different they have on their eyes. That one invention, those surgeries can cost anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 or $5,000. Multiply that by the amount of people that get that surgery done every year, then you get an idea of the scope of what that invention has done for people. That's the kind of information and relation that we need to say about these inventors, not just, well, they filed for this patent, this is the name, and this is the year. Yeah. As Dr. Barker said, this story is important. So going forward, those stories will be coming out because I want our children to understand that we were not just enslaved. Yes. For many of us, until we became, I don't want to use the word awoke, but we became aware, because it's an awareness, a consciousness that you have to elevate yourself to. And when you get that kind of enlightenment, you've got to make sure you spread it and just don't keep it for yourself. So in closing, the key to this is the book is just a seed, but it's a seed that's going to open your mind. The other articles, the other books that are going to be coming forward, they're going to tell the story. And the whole purpose of this is, as we go forward, as Dr. Barker said, I might not see the shade of that tree, but I will know that somewhere in the future, many of the children or adults will be able to sit underneath that tree called STEM, science, technology, whatever you want to call it, and enjoy the fruits from that tree. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Holmes, for coming on. Very enlightening. And the book is called Black Inventors, Crafting Over 200 Years of Success, by this stalwart here, Mr. Keith Holmes. Thank you so much for coming on. We're gonna have you back on again to share once you have those articles out and you're ready again, we'll do something. And then we're gonna talk about some other stuff that we can do to get people aware of it. Dr. Barker, thank you so much for sharing the platform. I know thank you, Dr. Barker.
Very good conversation, and I wish you all the best for being a trailblazer and continuing to blaze a new path forward, because we do need people like you who not only do it because it's a good thing to do, but also understands the importance of you doing it and the symbolism when you are writing about Black inventors as a Black person. Because sometimes we see a book about Black people, but it's written by another person. And so there are a lot of that. And then, so, it's a question is, there's a thing I read where it said, I've always said somebody should do it. And one day I realized I was that somebody. I think that is you making a decision one day. So thank you for joining the show. And thank you for being an inspiration, not only for people that you know, but also in the future, many who will be inspired by your work. So thank you for doing it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Viewers, thank you so much. Yeah, anytime. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for viewing. We hope you learned something from this. And go out and get the book. It's on Amazon. All right.
And hold on, besides Amazon, it's
Besides-
also on my website.
Oh,
The
share
Okay.
your
paperback
website.
and the ebook version.
What's the
Okay.
website?
All right.
What's the website?
www.globalblackinventor.com.
Okay, that's easy. That's quite easy. So
Yeah,
that's the promo for this week. And put the link in the
yeah.
promo as
In the chat. Yeah, definitely. All
I'll
right.
have a
Thank you
look at
so
if my library can stock it just to ensure we have some of the best books.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
that'd be
appreciate it.
fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, viewers. You can reach us at edusolutionsintl.org. That's edusolutionsintl.org. Or you can just Google us, Education Solutions International. That's Education Solutions International. Thank you very much. Have a great week and a wonderful winding down of summer. It's getting a little bit chilly out there. So we'll see you next week with another edition of EduTalk. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Take care.